Hello and welcome to my favorite way to end the year, by ranking every car I drove. I'm Alanis King, and as a professional car reviewer, I have driven more than 60 cars this year. If you're familiar with the channel, you might know that we upload every single week, and we started doing that earlier this year. Car reviews, motorsport things, everything like that. And it was actually in this parking lot that we decided to do that, because we were out here filming a Bentley Bentayga review, and I went home and unexpectedly lost my job. So my husband and I decided, let's go all in. Let's do the YouTube thing. And we appreciate that y'all have been here through this entire journey. I quickly got a new job at Motor One and the Motorsport Network, and it's been awesome. So I've spent this year working 9 to 5 and also doing the YouTube channel in my mornings, nights, and weekends. It has been a lot of work, but it's also been really fun, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds. But first, I thought it was important to look back on 2024 and see what cars I liked the best. Now, we've done this ranking every car I drove video before, and this is an arbitrary list. It is about which cars I liked best, but also which cars I had the best experience in. It's also important to note that not all 60 cars are on this list. We've eliminated a few because I didn't have enough time in them, or I own them, like that Mazda Speed Miata back there. So we are down to 54, and we're gonna rank them from 54 to 1. You'll notice that at the lower part of the rankings, I will go faster, do like one sentence per car. And then as we get higher up, we're gonna get more expansive so I can tell you why those cars are so high on the list. So, let's do it. Coming in at a flamin' hot number 54 is the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. And I don't dislike this car. It was a very good car, like all the rest of the ones on this list, but this was a rental car. And when you get a rental car, you usually sign a document that says, you cannot dent or otherwise damage this car. And that 4xe was covered in dents. It had the bumper hanging off. It had paint on it. And I was like, how am I signing my life away in a car that's already damaged? So that was really stressful, and that's why it's last on the list. Number 53 is the Mercedes-Benz E-Sprinter, and this vehicle is amazing if you have a delivery service or another kind of job, or you own your own business and you are doing stuff in an urban environment. I absolutely love an electric Sprinter van because you can just take it back and charge it, come back out and benefit from regenerative braking. But I don't own a business or anything like that, so it didn't really fit for me, and it was kind of rough on the highway. Number 52 is the Subaru Crosstrek Sport, and this is an affordable all-wheel drive crossover. That's a great thing, but because of that, it's not that exciting, especially compared to other cars on this list, and it was really, 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 really slow. Number 51 through 48 are the Toyota Tacoma, Prius, Crown Signia, and Camry Hybrid. All great vehicles. The Tacoma, I didn't have enough time in. I don't really remember it super well, but it looked cool. The Prius, amazing car. The interior did disappoint me though. Crown Signia, really, really nice upscale feeling Toyota, but it didn't leave a lasting impression. And the same with the Camry. I think it's one of the best new hybrid sedans you can buy, best new hybrids you can buy, but it wasn't super memorable for me. Number 47 is the Toyota Land Cruiser. This was a great car. It has really, really good driver assistance tech on highways especially, and it was just nice to sit in. But I do feel like that car does not have enough off-road capability from the factory. It's got all the hardware and all the software. The vehicle can do it, but it does not have that underbody and outside of body protection. You would have to spend so much money to make this car not just peel open like a can on the trails. And I think that's a miss because you should be able to get it from the factory with all that stuff you need. Number 46 is the Kia EV9. I've driven this vehicle twice, both in that beautiful light blue color it comes in, and it is a really, really, really good 3-row electric SUV. Great driver assistance technology, super comfortable, makes 4-hour drives feel like 90 minutes. But again, I've driven a lot of really exciting cars this year and sports cars and stuff like that, so it's lower on this list because of that. Also, I did not have great charging experiences with it. I took it across rural Texas, and it's not fun to charge in rural Texas. It's actually kind of scary. Number 45 is the Chevy Silverado High Country. And this car, for the first time, I felt like I fit in rural Texas, and I had never had that feeling of belonging on the road because I'm always in a tiny car like that. And it was so nice. It was upscale and I had the best time in it. but also it just doesn't really suit my tastes very well, so it's lower on this list. Number 44 is the Nissan Ariya, and I think this car has the potential to be really revolutionary for Nissan. The problem is the price is too high to get onlookers' attention. You have tons of flashy electric cars out there, especially Teslas. So to get someone to look at a Nissan Ariya, you have to have the right price point. The inside of that car is amazing. It feels like a boutique hotel. It drives well. It has the right technology, but the most important part of selling a vehicle is getting someone in it, and that price really prevents that. Number 43 and 42 are the regular Ford Maverick with the gas engine and the Ford Maverick Hybrid. These are really good little trucks, and every time I see them, I go, oh, you made a really good buy. I love that. But they're just not as exciting as some of the other cars on the list. I love the hybrid. I love that it now comes in all-wheel drive, and you can get a small work truck and feel good about it. Number 41 is the Tesla Cybertruck. And honestly, this would be a lot higher if I was just judging it on the vehicle itself, because I absolutely love the steer-by-wire in that car, and I love the four-wheel steer. It drives so well for the size of the vehicle. I find that when I'm in a big truck, I have to turn the wheel a million times. But in the Cybertruck, you just turn it a little, and the vehicle does exactly what you need depending on your speed. It's great. The reason it's ranked lower is because when you're in a Cybertruck, everyone is staring at you, and sometimes they're gesturing at you, and sometimes they're taking photos of you, and it's not the best. Number 40 is the Toyota RAV4 Prime, and if you are in the market for a crossover or SUV, I would highly recommend looking at this vehicle. It is a hybrid. It drives well. It looks nice. It is nice. It's a little lower on the list because it's not super sporty and fun. And also it really hurt my back driving long distances in it. So ranks a little far down. Number 39 is the Honda Civic Sport Touring Hybrid. And you're going to see in end-of-year recaps from a lot of automotive outlets that this is one of the best cars of the year. And it is one of the best cars of the year. I went and drove it in Montreal and went to the Canadian Grand Prix F1 race. And it is amazing. It feels so much more luxurious than it is. The hybrid is great. I think that having hybrid sedans and hybrid hatchbacks just all over the market will help people adapt to hybrids. But again, I drove a lot of sports cars this year, so 39. Number 38 is the Genesis G70 2.5 turbo. I love Genesis models, and I love Genesis sedans. You can buy a nice looking rear-wheel drive sedan from Genesis, and it's awesome. But I'm ranking it a little lower because I still am sad about the fact that Genesis did not give me at least one model year of a manual G70 in the new, pretty, split headlight look. And I'm going to be sad about that forever. Number 37 is the Lexus GX 550. This is an ingenious SUV. It has a cooler in the center console. It has all of these fun little features like an opaque to clear roof that you just change with the press of a button. It is great, but also it suffers from some of the same issues as the Land Cruiser. It just doesn't have the underbody and body protection that I would want from it if I were going to take it off-road. And when you're spending $80,000 on an off-road SUV, you want to be able to take it off-road right away. Number 36 is the Mazda CX-90 plug-in hybrid. This vehicle has a great price and a great interior. It's a really good place to spend your time, but I didn't really love the lane keep assist and all of the highway driver assistance features in it. There's better technology out there than was in the CX-90 that I drove. Number 35 is the Kia Telluride, and that is a really good car. People are not messing with you when they say that they waited like a year for that thing and they were still thrilled with it. Oh, it's so nice to drive around. One issue I had with it was I didn't love that the second row seats, I couldn't kick my feet all the way out. I was just thinking about the Kia Carnival and how I could lay flat, and I can't do that in the Telluride. And that made me sad. Number 34 is the Honda Odyssey Elite. I love minivans and I love the Odyssey. Minivans are perfect because you do not have the markups of an SUV. You have a lower floor. You can load that thing and take it everywhere. It is the one vehicle that you could look at and go, for the market, that's a pretty decent price. And the Odyssey is one of those vehicles. Take a few points away from the Odyssey because I think it could have some more updated styling. It doesn't look as modern as it should on the outside. Number 33 is the Lexus IS 500F Sport. Wonderful car, great to drive, sounds absolutely amazing. It rips. The issue I run into when I have a luxury sports sedan is too often you have to sacrifice on either side of that. You have to sacrifice some of the sport for luxury and you have to sacrifice some of the luxury for sport. So any luxury sports sedan is going to be kind of a compromise and you're not going to get the best of either world. Number 32 is the 2025 Mazda CX-70. This car has great lane keep assist, great throttle and traffic assist, really comfortable, looks absolutely beautiful. I had it in Phoenix for the NASCAR championship weekend and it was so nice to drive. Also, NASCAR at Phoenix is the most beautiful thing you'll ever see and it was a really great weekend. Number 31 is the Genesis GV80 Coupe. And no, it is not a coupe. It is an SUV with a sloped roofline. I absolutely love what Genesis is doing across the board. The vehicles are beautiful. You'll notice that they look like Bentleys on the inside with the color scheme and the design. It's a really nice vehicle. A few points away for that coupe naming though. Number 30 is the Subaru WRX TR. And the WRX TR is really fun to drive, but I don't feel like it's as up to date as its other competitors. Toyota GR Corolla feels super modern and super fun and really great. The Civic Type R, same thing. Subaru WRX still feels like it's in like 2016, 2017, and it's fun, but it's just not quite up there with the rest of them right now. Number 29 is the Ford Bronco Sport Sasquatch. This is a really fun little off-roader, and I feel like so often when you talk about a Ford Bronco versus a Bronco Sport, people go, oh, the Bronco Sport is just an escape. And sure, you're right, but so many modern cars are great off-road, and when you put an off-road package on them, like the Sasquatch package, they get even better. The Bronco Sport is not something to look over, especially if you do the occasional fun off-roading, not the hardcore stuff for the Bronco, and it was so much fun. We went to the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, learned all about the native plant and wildlife, and it was a great time. I loved it. Number 28 is the Colorado ZR2 Bison. And if you are a truck person and you have 70 grand to spend on a truck, get that ZR2 Bison. It is so good. I loved my entire experience with that car. Again, though, I'm not much of a truck person, so it's lower on this list. Number 27 is the GMC Hummer EV, and that is such a good electric SUV. I know what you're saying. It's huge. It's unnecessary. It weighs 9,000 pounds. What is wrong with you? Yes, but the interior is amazing. The acceleration is amazing. Oh, it's so much fun to drive. The only problem is everyone assumes you're a jerk when you drive that car, so don't try to change lanes. Don't try to get let in traffic because no one's letting you in. We are in the segment of the video where every single time I look at the list, I go, that is a good car. And number 26 is the 2026 Honda Passport Trailsport. I went to Moab for the first time ever to drive this car, and Moab is absolutely beautiful. It's better than anyone ever says. Wow. And the Passport Trailsport was awesome. Yes, this is a unibody crossover. It is not a body-on-frame, purpose-built off-roader, but it had so much off-road protection. It had the skid plates, the rock sliders, all of the extraction points. It was built out to be an off-roader, and it was amazing. Anything I encountered in that car, you just slam those rocks and keep going. It was great. Number 25 is the Bentley Bentayga EWB Azure First Edition. This is a beautiful car. It is comfortable. You look in those headlights and they look like crystal glassware. But it's also $300,000, and the day I filmed it, I lost my job. Number 24 is the manual Toyota Supra, and I am so glad there is now a manual Toyota Supra. That manual feels great. It clunks into gear, and the clutch and all the pedals are so easy to work. It is really nice, all of the actions in that vehicle. The issue I have with any Supra is the fact that the Supra just feels too put together. Obviously, you don't want a car that's just all over the place all the time. You want it to have some kind of composure, but I find when I'm in a Supra on the road, it has too much composure. The only time I feel like I'm actually pushing a Supra is on a racetrack, and that means it can feel kind of boring on the road. It just doesn't feel visceral like I want it to. Number 23 is the Nissan Z Nismo. That car is so much fun to drive, but points are taken away for the fact that it does not come in a manual, and the interior is not as modern and updated as I want it to be. It just feels a little old. I'm feeling 350, 370Z inside that car, and that's not the best. But wow, the driving dynamics, the way it shifts, if you can get in that car, get in that car because it is a great experience. 22 is the Hyundai Elantra N manual. I love the Hyundai Elantra N. I also drove the Auto recently. Great car, both sides of it. The issue I have with the Elantra N is that the shifter doesn't feel as satisfying as I want it to. It's kind of a light thunk, and also when it's in gear, the shifter moves a little bit. And the more you use that car and the more you drive it, that shifter is gonna move even more in gear. Also, the really weird thing about the Elantra N is that when you give it gas to get into first gear, it needs so much more gas than you think it does. I got in that car, hadn't killed a car in ages. Killed it right away. My friend got in that car because he was also reviewing it, hadn't killed a car in years, killed it right away. I took it to the valet, killed it right away because you're not expecting to need to give it that much gas, and it's very odd. But wow, you put that thing in mode and it rips. The steering tightens up, the suspension tightens. Oh, it's so good. Really fun. Number 21 is the Toyota GR86 Trueno Edition. And I love the GR86 and its Subaru sibling, the BRZ. That is affordable rear-wheel drive with 4 seats, but not really 4 seats. It's 2 seats and then a bench back there that you can put your backpack on. It is so nice to see automakers keeping those kinds of cars alive because that is what enthusiasts like. The GR86 isn't my favorite driving experience. It is really fun, but I do think there are areas where it can improve. Like, I wish the shifter was a little better. It just has that very light thunk action, and I like a thicker thunk on that shifter. Bringing in the top 20 is the Honda Civic Si. And if you've never driven a Honda Civic Si, people will usually tell you it shifts like butter and it drives really, really well. And that's honestly exactly what it's like. I love the fact that I can get in a normal Honda Civic with a manual transmission and just a little bit of power to have some fun in. That car's been really good for a long time, and it will continue to be really good because Honda's specialty is taking something that's good and continuing to perfect it, like the Si. Number 19 is the Ferrari California. And if you're a car person, you have probably had other car people tell you that the Ferrari California is the weak sauce Ferrari. It is the hairdresser's Ferrari. It is the other sexist synonyms that I can think of Ferrari. It's not. It's so good. That car is amazing to drive. It feels like a Ferrari. It roars like a Ferrari. And when you're driving it, you just feel like you're in a commercial. You feel like you're in the Italian countryside enjoying your life. Wow, that's a fun car. And anybody who tells you it's not a Ferrari is wrong. If you get a chance to drive it, drive it. It will change your mind. Oh, what a good car. Number 18 is the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, and I have now driven this car on track twice. I've driven it at Willow Springs, the streets of Willow, and I have driven it at Sonoma Raceway. This car is a marvel of future technology. It's fully electric, but it has these sound and fake shifting modes where you can make it sound like a 4-cylinder and you can make it shift like an 8-speed dual clutch automatic. And that is amazing because the really important thing when you get on a track is having audio and visual and feeling cues when you're going into corners. And when you're in an EV, if you're not used to EVs, you lack those cues, and that makes it harder to get used to the car, especially when the weight is different. In the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, all of your weight is under you instead of where the engine is, in front of you or behind you or something like that. So that's something you have to get used to. If you're also getting used to the fact that there's no sound, that's gonna be really, really hard. But that fake sound and that fake shifting makes it amazing to throw in the corners. And it makes me so excited to see what electric technology can be in the future when we're pretending to be gas cars. Number 17 is the 2016 Mustang GT. This car had all kinds of modifications. It had that massive hood that just sticks up and blocks your view. It was so silly. It was orange with black racing stripes. It looked like the car version of a race car bed, and it was so much fun. Oh my gosh. There is something so freeing about driving a silly modified Mustang and just realizing that that's who you are and you should stop pretending to be someone else. And that's what that car did for me. Number 16 is the Aston Martin Vantage. And I didn't have that much time in this car. I drove it on the street and I drove it on the streets of Willow. And my issue on the streets of Willow was something that a lot of other people really liked. It was the fact that in the corners, that car would just drift. It would not keep its wheels in place where you wanted it to be. All you had to do was slightly turn the wheel, you're drifting. And that's fun, especially when you get used to the car. But when you only have a few laps in it, it makes it a little harder to have fun on the track because you're just trying so hard to control the car. Number 15 is the second generation Acura NSX. This car was so unfairly treated when it came out because the old NSX was the holy grail. It was the gas-powered manual car. And then we have this new hybrid NSX and it's just not good. No, that car absolutely rips. It's amazing. I love the technology. And I drove it very briefly earlier this year. I drove it more extended amounts years ago. But earlier this year, I got in, just accelerated, and then gave it back. And it's so fun to drive. What a car. Don't let anybody tell you the new NSX does not rip because it will rip your face off. It's so fun. Number 14 is the 2024 Dodge Durango SRT Hellcat. And I love how absurd this vehicle is. It is the most absurd Hellcat powered vehicle from the factory because we did not get a Hellcat Pacifica. And that is really sad. A 3-row SUV with a Hellcat in it that when you put it in launch mode, it squats back and launches forward and just like puts your skin against your face. That doesn't have to exist. And it's really cool that it does. Number 13 is the Porsche 718 Spider RS. Amazing car on the racetrack. Feels absolutely great. It's classic Porsche. You turn the wheel, it perfectly goes exactly where you need it to go. It feels amazing. Oh, I loved every single second of how that car drove. The reason it's a little lower is because it had those bucket seats in there. And those bucket seats just do not fit well with my body type. I had to drive it 2 hours out of LA and 2 hours back into LA, and it was so uncomfortable. It also lacks some of the interior features I would want it to have. There's no place to put your phone. The infotainment screen is not really even a screen. It's very focused on driving, which is awesome, but it's also not practical in 2024. Number 12 is one of my favorite cars ever, the Lexus LC 500. No one owns this car. Barely anyone buys this car every single year. There are so few of them out there, but it is amazing. The way it feels, the way it looks, it's a spaceship. It's great. Honestly, the only reason it's number 12 is because I've driven it before and I'm very used to it, so it wasn't a new and novel experience for me, but that's one of the best cars out there. If you can get one with depreciation, go, get it. You won't regret it. Number 11 is the Ford Mustang GT. What a great car. Came with a 6-speed manual, absolutely ripped. And one of my favorite parts about this car was that it rained while I had it. And I really, really wanted to copy this video that Lewis Hamilton did while he was driving a car. We came out in the rain, put GoPros all over the car, and did shot by shot this video that Lewis Hamilton did. It was amazing. It looked really, really good. Before we hit the top 10, it is really important for me to thank today's video sponsor, Magna. Magna supplies tons of the parts and technology you see in cars today, and they're working behind the scenes to make cars smarter and safer. As you can tell by this video, we have reviewed a lot of cars this year, and in a lot of those reviews, Magna let us highlight a new piece of technology to talk about. In the Lexus GX 550, we talked about Magna's ClearView system, which integrates exterior cameras into a video mirror. In the Lamborghini Revuelto, we talked about Magna's Smart Latch system, which trades mechanical door handles for a multi-function electronic release controlled by an integrated ECU. In the GR86, we talked about Magna's InVision adaptive driving beam headlights that use sensors to identify other cars or road signs and angle the beams to avoid blinding other drivers or causing glare. There is so much technology packed into these cars, and the end user isn't always aware of how much of it Magna manufactures for the OEMs. Magna also makes things like seats, transmissions, battery enclosures, and so much more. Magna also assembles entire cars like the Toyota Supra and the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. I hope that this year you were able to use those segments to learn more about your car and other cars on the road, and also appreciate how they're made. Magna does all kinds of stuff for OEMs and in the car industry, and if you want to learn more, you can go to magna.com. Thanks Magna for sponsoring us, and thank all of you for watching. Welcome to the top 10, and number 10 is the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. This is one of the best new cars on the market. It's absolutely amazing, but I think a lot of people didn't buy it and you don't see it on the road because of the fact that there were so many early reports about the reliability. The Quadrifoglio's seating position is literally on the ground. The steering response is so fast. Everything about that car is the best thing ever. And I highly recommend that everybody drive it if they give a chance. It's amazing. Number 9 is the 2009 Dodge Viper ACR. I did not have the best ability to drive this car and actually accelerate it or do anything like that because of the fact that the day ran really long, and by the time I got to drive the car in the review, it was sunset and there were a bunch of deer and I had to be really careful. But this makes the top 10 because it was such a unique experience to get to say I drove a Dodge Viper ACR, and I still think about it all the time. I love Vipers, they're beautiful. Number 7 and 8, I'm just going to say them both because I flip back and forth every single day. Number 7 and 8 are the FK8 and the FL5 Honda Civic Type R. These cars are the only Type Rs we have gotten new in America, and the FK8 is the one that looks like a BattleBot, and the FL5 is the one that looks like an adult car. And every day I go, today I'm feeling the FK8, today I'm feeling the FL5, and today I'm feeling the FL5. It is more mature, it's beautiful, every little input you give it is amazing. It goes back to what Honda does. Honda takes a really, really great car and just perfects every little piece of it. And both of those cars are really, really good. So today, FK8 is behind FL5. Tomorrow, it'll be ahead. Number 6 is a car I rave about all day, every day, and that is the Toyota GR Corolla Core. The GR Corolla is one of the best cars on the market right now, and I cannot believe it exists. All-wheel drive, 300 horsepower from a 3-cylinder that just rips. Amazing shifter feel. It just thunks into gear. It is a car that will just change how you feel about cars, and I recommend everyone get in that car. Anyone I talk to, I'm like, get a GR Corolla, they're so good. The reason it's actually not like in the top 3 on my list is because I had a very normal loan with it, and you'll notice that the rest of the cars on this list, I had really exciting things happen with them. Number 5 is a perfect example of that, and it is the Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Not only is that car incredible to drive, it has that 6-speed manual, and it also has no lift up shift, so you can keep your foot to the floor and let the car handle it while you're shifting. But also, I got to drive and review that car with Craig Mabbitt, the singer of my favorite band, Escape to Fate. I just hit up their PR person and I said, hey, no biggie, but if Craig wants to come review a car with me, that would be awesome. I also asked Ford and they were like, yeah, why not? We'll just give a random person we don't know access to that car. And I was like, thanks Ford, thanks for trusting me. It was just the perfect storm of everything to be able to drive that car and review it with Craig, and we had the best time, and I will think about it forever. Number 4 is the ND3 Mazda Miata, which I've driven so many times this year. I drove it in San Francisco. I drove it at home. I drove it on the streets of Willow. I've driven it everywhere, and that car is so good. The Miata is very similar to like Honda's philosophy of you take a car that is really, really good and has always been really, really good, and you continue to make it just slightly better every single time, and that ND3 is absolutely perfect. I had it on the racetrack with a bunch of supercars, and I still wanted to drive it after getting out of those supercars because the Miata is just the answer. It's so, duh, it's right there. Number 3 is the 992 Porsche 911 GT3 Touring. Now, I dream of GT3s all the time. I spec my 911 GT3 online day in and day out, and I dream of that car. The reason it's number 3 and not number 1, where it probably would have been, is the fact that this car was not through its break-in period yet. It was an owner car, and I drove it, and it had like a couple hundred miles on it. So I could not accelerate and hit that amazing red line in that manual 911 GT3 because it wasn't there yet. So I just had to hold back and drive it around on the street. And famously, it has a very stiff suspension. So when you're just driving it at low speeds around the street, you're like, the whole time. Number 2 probably would have been number 1 without a technicality, but it is the Lamborghini Revuelto. I drove this car in Sedona, Arizona. It was absolutely beautiful. Drove it in California, drove it on the streets of Willow Racetrack, and that car is so good. 1,001 horsepower, hybrid V12. Oh my gosh, that car will just make you see the light. Honestly, it's so good. It handles so well on track. Everything about it is absolutely amazing. The styling, the attention you get, the way it feels to drive. I had the best time, the best experiences, honestly. Sedona was amazing. We met all of these really cool people. We met a really cool guy who loved the Lamborghini and asked if he could film it on his drone and got us drone shots for the review. It was so much fun and such a bonding experience, and I love that car to death. I think about it all the time. Number 1 is the Lotus Emira. And this might throw you off if you've driven the Lotus Emira, because it is not the perfect car. The pedal box is all the way to the right. So actually when I got in it for the first time, I put my foot on what I thought was the gas or brake or something like that, and it ended up being a different pedal, because when I pressed it down I was like, that feels wrong, because the pedals are so far to the right that your clutch foot is in the middle of your body, basically. It has some issues, but I think the thing about the Lotus Emira and why it's number 1 on my list is because it was the one car this year that wasn't normal, like an ND3 Miata, that I looked at and I went, after depreciation, I could really see myself buying that car. It handled so well on track. It really wanted you to drive it aggressively on track. Like the Vantage, it was drifting in the corners. You put the Emira in the corner, it loved when you handled it aggressively in the corners. It was so much fun. It's beautiful. It's different. It's special. And you know what? Yeah, it's $100,000 right now, but after depreciation, hopefully in like 10 years, it won't be $100,000 anymore, and I would consider buying that car. And what was so special about it for me was that I think every car enthusiast goes through this period of going, I need a Lotus, and it's usually a Lotus Elise. And I dreamt about buying and driving a Lotus Elise for years, and then I finally got in one about a year ago, and I did not fit. The seats were way too tight. My knees were together while I was driving, so I had my clutch foot and my gas foot like this, and it just wasn't practical. I realized I cannot buy or drive a Lotus Elise. And I had not had a Lotus Evora yet to drive. I still haven't driven one, but getting in the Mira made me realize that there is a Lotus that I can drive comfortably and have a blast in and maybe buy in like 10 years. And that was really, really special for me. And that's why it's number 1 on my list. So that was the big list, all the way from 54 to 1. We drove so many cool cars this year, and we had an absolute blast. And I really appreciate that y'all have been here for that. If you're interested in the individual cars on this list, I'm going to put a bunch of links in the description to the video reviews, the stories, and everything about them, so you can learn more from there. It has been awesome to have you here. And I can't wait for 2025. We're going to bring you more weekly videos, and hopefully they will all be really good. You never know where life will take you, but I think next year is going to be super fun. Thank you so much for being along for the ride. If you want to subscribe, that would be absolutely amazing. If you want to leave a comment, I'll be sure to respond to you. And if you want to like the video, that would be really cool too. We'll see you next year. Have a good one.